It is worth noting that as a matter of political science, we are also really used to seeing authoritarian leaders get reelected. Not because they're popular, right? Not because their beleaguered populations like them and freely choose them, but because authoritarian leaders only care about elections as window dressing, right? They only care about elections for the purpose of validating the leader's hold on power. They don't care about real free and fair democracy. They don't care about good and fair government. If they were, they wouldn't be authoritarians and dictators. But as a general rule, authoritarian leaders get reelected in part because they're absolutely shameless about what they are willing to apply to an election to make sure they hold on to power. They are willing to use all the powers of the government that they control to ensure that they win the next election to keep themselves in power. As a general principle, that goes hand in hand with authoritarian leadership. And that's why authoritarianism and elections most often yield to what appear to be re-election results for authoritarian leaders. They bring the powers of the government to bear to ensure that they win the election to keep them in power. Now, we're going to be talking this hour about the U.S. Postal Service, of all things. Because of the pandemic, it has emerged as a brand new, never-before-needed choke point in terms of the Trump administration having potential direct influence over the next election and over voting nationwide. I mean, think about the contrast between this and previous elections. In previous elections, every state had basically total control over voting and elections, right? Independently, all 50 states all doing it their own way, 50 different ways. That's how it's set up in our Constitution. That's how we've basically always done it. This year, simply because of the pandemic, all over the country, all of us in almost every state, we will all be, for the first time, relying on one part of the federal government controlled by the Trump administration to receive and cast our ballots. We have procedurally federalized our elections by running all of our receipt and submission of our ballots through one part of the federal government controlled by the president. And we don't think of the Postal Service as a particularly political thing. We don't think of protecting it as critical to our ability to stay a democratic country, but by circumstance and political eventuality, here we are. Friday night, we reported on nearly 24 senior Postal Service leaders being summarily removed from their jobs by the new guy who Trump just put in charge there. Today, Politico reporting that the Trump White House is actively working on ways they can sabotage voting through their newly tight control over the Postal Service. They're spitballing new ways they may be able to use the power of the government they now run to make sure that Trump keeps hold of power by sabotaging the vote through the Postal Service. The Postal Service is a new weird part of that power dynamic simply because of the pandemic and the logistical imperatives that it's imposed on us. They're apparently going for it. That said, of course, there's no substitute for the Justice Department being used that way too, right? Having the Justice Department working for the president's political aims, that's priceless. Clearing and protecting friends and co-conspirators of the president, people who would lie to law enforcement or cover for him to keep him from getting in trouble. The Justice Department directing criminal investigations and potentially prosecutions of the president's political enemies and his perceived opponents. I mean, that, as the president was coming into office, was seen as the sort of holy grail of what he might try to grab hold of in terms of corrupting the U.S. government to his own purposes and to bolster his own hold on power. Well, you know, you talk about these things as worst case scenarios, then they happen, then you just have to live with them and figure out the way out of it. We have now seen, one by one, even the most supposedly independent federal prosecutors' offices pressured and in some cases taken over by Attorney General Bill Barr, with direct consequences for the prosecutions of people like Roger Stone and Michael Flynn and ongoing investigations into the president's businesses and his various lawyers. Right now, we are steaming toward the election with a public promise from Attorney General Barr that he will unveil the results of a criminal investigation targeting senior officials in the Obama administration, and that public reveal, he says, will happen before the election, in which President Trump, of course, will face off against the Obama administration's Vice President Joe Biden. William Barr promising that the results of the criminal investigation he has ordered and he is supervising into Obama administration officials, that will be out before the election. Use the power of the government you control to hold on to power. That is the game. That's how they do it. That's the basic principle. And behold, into this life that we are now living and that understanding of the circumstances in which the president is trying to hold on to power, behold, here comes Robert Draper at the New York Times Magazine with next, maybe the biggest shoe to drop along these lines. He tells the story, the astonishingly, mostly untold story, of how the intelligence agencies are falling to it now too.